Welcome everyone to today's webinar. This is Patrick at Qdabra, and I'm really happy today to announce that Mel Clemente is going to be doing our webinar. Just before we get started, we got a couple quick questions for you to put us in the right frame of mind. Let's see, the first question, I'm going to launch this poll here. You should see it. We're looking at centralizing your resource files today to make it really easy for you to update the look and feel of your forms across one site. So the first question is, how many forms do you have on one SharePoint site? Obviously 40 seems like a lot. Probably nobody's going to answer that question, but if you could quickly respond to this, maybe you have to do some counting on your own, but just give us a rough order of magnitude. What's the max forms? It looks like most of you are in the 10 to 20 range. Nobody is less than 5, so that's good news. And no wonder you're here, because you want to learn how to make your maintenance less effort. Great, thanks a lot for that. We had about a third of you in the less than 10, a third in the less than 20, and about a third in the less than 40. So I'm going to switch to the next poll here. We got one more quick question before we get started, and that is, are you using FormsViewer at all with your forms? And most of you, I think, are. If you're not, welcome to our webinar. We're going to be talking about FormsViewer, which is the only actually replacement as is for InfoPath out there. What that means is that your InfoPath forms can continue working in InfoPath. They'll also work in FormsViewer. You don't need InfoPath anymore. We have Forms Designer to change your forms. We'll be showing that today too. I think hopefully Mel, we can show that too. And anyway, so quick question here. It looks like most of you are using this. So the SES is 71%, and then a split on the others, 14 and 14 for the others. Thanks for playing the quick poll game here. Want to introduce Mel Clemente. Mel Clemente is our senior forms designer. She's been here since 2008. Really thrilled that she is going to be doing the webinar and the demo today. I also need to do a call out to our special guest, Suzanne King, who inspired this technique. Suzanne was in a previous webinar that we did. We featured another technique, I think, Suzanne, that we talked about. I'm trying to remember what that was. But it's really great to have you here, Suzanne, and I want to thank you for this wonderful technique that you developed when you deployed FormsViewer at BakerBots. And BakerBots is a large legal firm in the Houston area. If you're doing law, you might want to check them out. It's great to have Suzanne here. I think maybe what we'll do is we'll make Suzanne a presenter so she can say something. Hold on a second. Suzanne, I'm making you an organizer. And now you should be able to unmute. Sorry about that. Anyways, great.
I feel so important. Thank you.
Thanks for being here. Mel, I'm going to shut up and let you do all the work, but thank you so much, Suzanne. And Mel, I might have a few questions. I'll jump in as always. So it's all you.
Sounds good. Thanks, Patrick. Hello, everybody. So this is Mel Clemente, your presenter for today's webinar. And today we'll talk about centralizing your form style resources. As our intro image here tries to convey, you're going to think about these ropes or your forms trying to pull resources from this centralized location. All right. So for today's agenda, we're going to show you how you can update your forms to query those resource files. They can be your custom style sheets, JavaScript files, and even images from a central location that'll allow us to change the look and feel without changing the templates, the look and feel of our forms without you having to go through changing those templates. And then we can also add common logic that allows us to do more with our forms. For example, the auto save and auto logout, we have the XDP for that. So I'm going to show you how to add that and make it pull the JavaScript file from that centralized location. And again, all of these is about allowing us or giving us the power to roll out new features to our forms by simply changing those files in the central location, and everything just works in your forms without having to change the template, okay? And if time allows, we're gonna talk about the recent update with FormsViewer that now allows to show more details when there are errors. So let's first start talking about how to do it. So I've been saying that you're just gonna have to upload those resource files in a library in your SharePoint site. And we recommend uploading those into the root site and in a library, for example, the site assets, because all sites have site assets by default, right? And why the root site? That's because you may have a lot of subsites and just placing everything in the root site and adding logic in your forms that queries that root site, you know, that means that all your templates in any subsites will work without specifying which subsite, because again, you can have a ton of subsites, right? If that makes sense. And then the rules should go into the few rules finished loading. So these should happen on form load. We call this load resource queue rules command, and we just basically tell the command to point or go grab the files from this location. And then whenever you want to update the files, for example, how you want to change how your form looks, you want to update the CSS file, you can update it and then upload it to that central location, and your changes will just roll into wherever the form is published. Okay, not much to talk about there really. I'm just going to jump straight to my demos. So I'm going to start with a starter template. So here I don't have anything fancy, just some header and the content, which has just some some text there, and the footer, and then the debug section. So what I have going on in the rules here, my Qdabra rules, these are the rules that we'll be using to load those resource files. If I try to zoom in here. So yeah, we'll talk more in detail about these commands later on, but here, like I mentioned, we'll be using the load resource command to call those external files, so to speak. They're not really external because they're still residing in your site, but it's not part of the form. That's what it is. It's not baked into the resource files in your template, okay? So I have a temporary rule up here that is disabled. So I'm going to enable this. This just means that all my rules down below are not going to run because I have this box checked. Don't run any rules if this condition is not met. So I'm just going to show you how it behaves when I don't have those rules enabled. Okay, so meaning I'm not using any resource files at all. So here's how it looks. Nothing, just plain, exactly how you see the form content on my form canvas there. If I click on the solution version here to show the debug section, nothing had run, no queue rules command had executed. But once I disable this rule again here, that means I want to load my resource files now from my central location. And I just re-uploaded that back into my manage templates page, and now reloading. Now you'll see that the styling is just right there instantly. So as long as my styles are there, then this form would update itself. And let's show you actually updating, or let's show you the location of my files here. So here in Site Assets, Internal Forms, I have a new folder called Internal Forms, or all my resource files. This is the styles.css that it's trying to pull. And if I just show you the debug section here, now we'll see, and it's got the slider, debug slider feature down here as well, which before you didn't see it in this kind of styling. So here are commands that run. So aside from the styles.css, which is again located in my site assets, internal forms, I also run that swap class.javascript, and that is the one that the JavaScript responsible for changing my screen tips into classes so that my CSS file could read it and start the styling. Okay. All right. So go back in here. So I'm using in that form the styles.css and the swap class.js. So I'm gonna.
So Mel, just a quick question on that swap class. I mean, for people that aren't familiar with styling their forms, on the swap class, that's what you're using to enable all the fancy JavaScript behind the scenes. It's going to give you that slider and the kind of the modern look. What else is it enabling? Can you just show us that file maybe?
Yeah, they just let me start here. It used to be called screen tip swap class, screen tip swap, something like that. It's not JavaScript, but I called it swap class. If we look into the section properties here in one of my sections, we'll look at the advanced tab. Here we can see the screen tip, which is my_container. So the JavaScript looks for these kinds of screen tip that are prepended with a my_, and replaces that section, this section where I have the screen tip, to the class that I specify in my styling file. All right, so in that case, it's gonna.
And that's important to have the mapping. So you've got your form, and you want to allow your CSS to apply to all these different sections in it, and the way you're connecting it is using that screen tip and that swap class JavaScript, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly, you got it right.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. So if I start modifying the styles file from the browser, actually, because the site as its library allows us to do this. So I'm going to just change this and copy this in my clipboard. For now, change my primary color to something obvious, maybe this kind of light green. Okay, and that's my primary color, and I'm using that everywhere in my other styling blocks there. I'm going to save the file. Now if I reload my starter template without having to do anything, we should see the change. We don't, because there are some gotchas here, but there are some caching issues here that we will talk about more later. But if I just go into my settings here and try to clear my cache, because the previous styles.css got cached into here, and so it's still trying to load the older version. But when I try to clear my cache there, now we see that this color has been updated, because that's one of the places where I have the primary color applied. Okay, and again, we will discuss the caching issues further later, so hold on to your questions. And let's see what else here. So that's changing the color, and then there's one more technique to sort of get through that caching issue. But what I want to show next is let's see here, the expense report. So not only I want to show you a real life, real scenario, real world application. So where do I go here? I'm going to open our old expense report form here. So this is what we use internally. Not this one, sorry, this one, the backup. Okay. So this is what we use internally to submit expenses. And here is how it looks like before. It is not, it has its own styles.css and all the JavaScript baked in as resource files, but I changed that to be centralized to use the same styles.css that I showed you in my starter template. So here now you can see the exact same layout with the exact same color that I just changed.
Oh, that color is so awful, Mel. That's disgusting.
That is, I know. Let's go back to the, let me just change this back to what it was. I don't want you to feel disgusted.
You should have our what is it, our colors memorized by now, right?
No, I have it on my clipboard. I memorized it in RGB combination.
You don't memorize the hexadecimal? Come on. I mean, come on.
Oh, man. So clearing the data here again, trying that again.
Maybe we should go to the caching issue slide.
You want to talk through it now?
No, go back to we want to see the new colors to make sure it worked. Did it work?
Yeah. That's it. Trying to query a lot of other data.
Questions,
there we go.
Oh yeah, that's beautiful now. That's much better. If any of you have questions, feel free to throw your questions into the question comment area, and we'll answer those here in a second. Cool. So Mel, maybe what was next? Do you want to? I don't want to interrupt your demo, but I guess I am.
That's actually it. I showed the changing the CSS files on the fly there. I'm gonna show how to add the auto logout and save.
And now when people are updating their existing forms to add this, can you go into the expense report and show them what you changed between those two versions that added the loading? Did you have to add a bunch of rules because you're loading more than one resource, right?
Oh yeah, I haven't even talked about that yet. So sorry about that. Here, let's see. Let's just show it in the starter template because there are other rules in the expense report that we're doing. So here, I'm just dynamically determining the host URL first. We always do this in our FormsViewer forms. So the form automatically knows where it's published, right? this may look familiar to you. That's the first thing we want to do. And then you set the resource library. Again, this is where we suggest using or storing your resource files in your root site. And this formula just grabs that root site. Okay, so here you can see that I have the internal forms. I'm focusing on internal forms here. Let me see if I can. Right here, I can do that. Yeah, right here. Okay. And then, so you just need to copy, because you're going to get this template and you're just going to look at how these are all done and copy this formula into your form to, again, grab that root URL, and then you append it with your actual library where those files are stored. And I mentioned about even dynamically getting the logo URL, or although this is not part of centralizing, that logo is also located in our library in here. Okay, here, the logo.png. All right, since it's all there, we might as well just query it using the same technique. So basically just passing in the resource library URL with that.
So if they upload their logo using that name into the same place, then it'll show their logo, right?
Exactly, and it's pointing right here in this control here, the picture control.
Great.
So whenever I want to change that file in the site assets, whatever changes all the templates will pick it up right away. Okay, and then finally loading them. So here we have it.
Now I noticed you're doing this Google load here. You're getting the font from Google.
That's another, yeah, because the form has a custom font. This is not part of your Windows font. So if you don't have this installed in your machine, you're not going to see the same font instead. So what I'm doing is I'm querying it from Google Fonts right here. And then in my style sheet, I just, I also have a block for using this Poppins font. Yeah.
So if you didn't have that line, would any of the text show up at all? It would just be in Helvetica or whatever the default is.
Helvetica, probably, yeah, the default one.
It's not Helvetica anymore. What is it? I forget what it is.
Times New Roman? Yeah, whatever. So yeah, should I add the expense report this time? Adding the auto logout, auto save XDP into the expense report? Do I still have time for that?
Absolutely.
All right. So yeah, this is our expense report, the new one. Same sections here. If I go here, you can see that this is the header and all that stuff. So it has the same layout. I have the auto logout XDP in my custom controls. Now I'm just going to click on it to add it on my form here and follow a few instructions here. It should be very quick. Like on my finished loading, I just need to add a new rule that runs the auto logout logic rules, right? So I just set the value of my XDP auto logout, run a load to go. So I just need to trigger this. And then in my data source, XDP data source, I'm going to say the key rules temp command to point to the actual Qdabra rules command. So this should save you time. You won't need to re-add or re-inject rules into your forms. Okay, these are all the instructions and they're easy to do. So that's all that I have to do there. There are technical notes here as to the timing, how many minutes it takes for the form to auto load or to auto log out or save or whatnot. So just for the demo's purposes, I'm going to set these numbers to the lowest number possible so we can see the refresh working in 5 seconds, for example, right? Instead of 15, and here in the tick, I'm just going to say that prompt should show right away instead of 1 minute, show it to me within 6 seconds. And then lastly here, I don't want to wait for 10 minutes for the form to auto log me out. Just 10 seconds would do. So that should do for that change, I believe. Let's look at it again. Run the auto logout. Okay, so right now, the JavaScript that this is using is baked into the form here. See auto logout.javascript. You can see that right there. And also the separate overlay that is for the auto logout. So those are the two resource files that got added when I added the XDP. So I'm going to publish this into my FormsViewer instance and dev here because I don't want to break our prod version. Grab that, upload, and then I'm gonna, it's fine. All right, let's open the form. And we're gonna have to wait a couple seconds for that prompt that logs me out to appear. But okay, so this is the same layout when you make a change. And the purpose of that XTP is whenever, when your users start to open a form to try to fill them out, they might not want to complete it on that same time. Maybe they want to go back to it later. But this form, and that would cause some timeout issues later, causing form errors and whatnot, data loss and those kind of things. So we basically want, right there, we got our prompt, says your session will expire in 60 seconds. We didn't change this text, so it's still 60 seconds, but it should do it right away if I don't do anything. Right there, it just expired. So again, the session will automatically close for people who went away from their desk. There could be auto save in here that I didn't enable. So the form automatically saves even when the user is out of their desk.
Yeah, you have a scroll bar on your overlay.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's a bug. You found his slide, right? So yeah, that's it.
Yay. Did you want to mention the error thing? You said earlier that you're going to talk about this bonus item. Maybe we should talk about caching first. Let's just quickly
Yeah.
get the slide on caching since we're about out of time here. So as you saw in Mel's case, she was unable to get an immediate update to her form on SharePoint. And Suzanne, that's not the case for you. You're on-prem with Forms, you're on-prem, and whenever you make a change to your CSS, you don't even have to do the F5 or whatever, the clear the browsing data. It just shows immediately, right?
Correct. I believe so.
Do you know what
Yes.
what's the response header max aging is set to? Probably don't.
I don't.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
on SharePoint Online, I think it's 24 hours. This is this 86,400 seconds apparently. For those who are counting, and so the way to get around that is what Mel showed earlier, which is to go into the browser settings and clear that. And it's not an issue for JavaScript because the load resource command is behaving differently. It for performance reasons, it's obviously trying to use the cache for the image, the background image, and any of the other CSS resources. But for the JavaScript files, it actually blocks before those are loaded. We could probably improve performance by relying on the cache there, but her forms are opening pretty quickly, so that's not a big deal. So anyway, just a quick comment on the caching. Any questions for Mel today? There's another technique for forcing the cache to clear, and that is, or to retrieve files, and that is this technique that she's showing here, which is you encode this _C, which is this cache, I think, busting URL. How do you say that? Yeah, and so you have to put the time. What does the time mean there? Is it the time when? What does that mean? That's
The time the form loaded. It's the time the form loaded. Yeah.
well, you have to put in a time that's before the. I mean, that time is to get everything in the cache from that date on or that time on, or what does that mean?
I think it's just meant to like reload the file again. It forces the file to reload itself
But the date
with a
time
different
has to have
URL.
something. It has to be current, right? It can't be something in the past, right? You can't have 2020 there.
I'm not sure about that. I haven't tested that scenario.
No worries. So before, we don't have any questions apparently, Mel, but do you want to show that other technique, that bonus error handling thing?
Oh yeah, I thought you would. Because I haven't encountered that error myself anymore these
Well,
days. So
let's go to the, yeah, so we are near launching a 6.2 version of FormsViewer. We haven't launched FormsViewer, we haven't sort of deployed it since April, actually. So this is a pretty big update. There's a lot of new features. Mel, can you go to the test version of FormsViewer and just show the release notes real quick? And while we're
our
waiting,
internal test.
yeah, just go
Test.
to
Yeah.
the demo site or wherever we have the test version of FormsViewer installed, and we can show them the release notes. And while we're waiting for that, or you know where to go, Mel? Sorry, put you on the spot there.
No problem. The FormsViewer test, you said, right?
Yeah, the demo site has a FormsViewer test version, and then you can just go into the app
Okay.
and look at the release notes. I just want to show them what we're shipping. One of the features we're shipping in this release, and I want to call out to Catherine, who I think is on the call, for inspiring us to improve our error logging. So one of the benefits of working with a small company like Qdabra is you can just tell us to do something, and we will get to it probably quicker than Microsoft will. And so one of the things that's new is this error logging. And so we're probably going to make the date tomorrow or the next day. We're very close to releasing 6.2. And we have this error logging now. So you should see, if you're seeing errors because the form is timed out, you may see some sort of JSON error, which is perplexing and causes people to just go crazy with fits of user voice or whatever you want to call it. Anyway, so we're improving the error messages, and this is something that's going to get better over time. Right now, I don't think we're covering every single error that could possibly happen, like with queries and things like that. But you should see a difference in the error messages, and that invalid JSON error will be replaced with something that's a little bit more actionable, or you can tell us, and we might have an idea of actually what it is the error is about, as opposed to before. And the other thing that we're doing is we're actually logging error information on the server if you're running SharePoint Online, or if you're on-prem, of course, it'd be your server. So we're logging that error message so that to help with troubleshooting. And obviously, for the privacy reasons, we're not actually logging anything about who caused the error or what the form is. We're just logging the error itself. So you're not going to have any issue there. With the GDPR, whatever it is, we want to be careful about that. So any other questions for us? I think that's it. Mel, can you go back to that FormsViewer slide real quick? Qdabra Forms is the new name for FormsViewer because we shipped the Forms Designer in April as well, the beta version. We've had 12 sprints for Forms Designer. We're getting close to that 1.0 release. We haven't made as much progress over the summer as we wanted to. We really wanted to get the 1.0 out at the end of September, but we had some resource churn in our team in Asia, and we had a couple of guys decide to go get their PhD, and these developers were replaced, and the new guys, we had to ramp them up. And so we're hoping to get the Forms Designer 1.0 out by the end of November or December. We also have training at the end of November, so November 30th is our training class, our free training class. We try to do it twice a year, and that training class is open to the first 10 people that register. So if you're interested, it's just 4 days, just a couple hours a day, and starting on November 30th, and it runs Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And we'd love to see you in the training class. We're going to be recording it and keeping track of everything. I guess that's it, Mel. Anything else to add? Obviously, Mel did all the work, so thanks, Mel, for this great demo and webinar today.
Yeah.
If we'll be uploading this content to YouTube, we have a very short 4-question survey here that if you fill it out, we'll send you the package of goodies that Mel demoed. And this is a really great technique because, once again, if you have a lot of forms, you want to have common look and feel for those forms, common fonts, common images, common auto logout, right, to make sure that your data is not lost. And Mel's techniques today show how to do that. So you can have everything can be loaded from a common site assets library or document library, whatever that site assets thing is. I forget what it is. And it'll make it easier for you to maintain updates across all of your forms on that one site. So once again, thanks to Suzanne for this wonderful technique, quite an inspiration. And thank you for being here. We hope you attend next week. We've got quite a few webinars scheduled for the end of the year here. We're going to be doing release demo notes for the new release for FormsViewer probably next week. And then we have another webinar coming soon on rich text. If you ever wondered about how to create rich text on the fly in your forms and print it, we're going to be talking about that and other things as well. So stay tuned, and thanks again for being here. Have a great day. Bye.
Take care, everybody. Bye.